Hey there, traders. This chart does not give justice to what occurred last week in the markets with the whips up and what happened in the bond markets. What that means for the future, I'm not certain, but there isn't a Fed meeting until September, and some time will have to pass by with economic reports coming out. But let's take a look at what's happening, and then I'm going to get to Meta that gapped down 11% on its earnings. And I did a chart of the week on that, which give you the link. You can check that out. But let's see what's happening here. So this was the day that on the Fed meeting where it went down to what we call major support. That's where the buyers were going to be. When we look to the left, we always know they're going to be buyers at major support. We don't know to what level they're going to show up, but we can wait and see what happens in the time frame that we're trading. So on the daily time frame, there was nothing to do. It closed near the low, and obviously that creates a thought that while it might create a consolidation day, which often does, after a big wide range bar, it was likely to go lower. Well, that didn't happen. It gapped up about 80% into the top of that big negative down bar. And it closed positive, and that supports a bias that it's going to go up. Well, it did, but it whipped up and down. Let's take a look at a 5-minute chart to see what was dealt with as intraday traders. And so this was the day where it went down and it rallied all the way back up and then all the way back down again. And then it gapped up and did this churn and gap up, down. And the volatility was just incredible. Created a lot of opportunities for intraday traders. But on a daily chart perspective, as I said, it really didn't give it justice. So the markets have been good in the trading range now for, I guess, about 3.5 months or so. And prices are now in the middle of the trading range, as you can see right there. It's been about a 5% whip up and down, up and down, up and down, and prices come back to the middle of the range overall. We'll have to see where this week goes. Now, what was so crazy about the bond market? Well, look at what was going on as we came into that week. So what was happening was short-term interest rates were rising for about a month. And then as we went into the earnings report, they accelerated higher. What does that mean? It means that the bond market is saying, regardless of what majority think, they're going to raise interest rates. That's why this is pushing as it is. Well, look at what happened. They didn't raise interest rates. They called it wrong. And so that created a big level of uncertainty, and the short-term yields, this is a 13-week yields, collapsed right back down again. So at that point, it's like they're not going to raise interest rates. They're not going to be around until September. Nothing's going to happen. They were wrong, and down it goes. Well, look at what happened with the 10-year and the 30-year. The 30-year broke out of a trading range, hit 20-year highs, and that suggests it's going to go higher. Borrowing costs go up, mortgage rates go up. The bond market is still saying we're going to clamp down on this inflation as much as they can, even though the Fed isn't going to raise interest rates. They got that wrong. But this is going to raise costs, and we'll see if it reels in inflation in some way. There's the 10-year breaking out as well to a lesser degree. Nonetheless, it went up. Now, the wild card is what oil is going to do. And as we came into the weekend, the president was saying he's going to continue the bombing. Well, another taco trade set up over the weekend. He backed off and said, oh, no, we have some negotiations going on, so we're not going to bomb them. And so that would assume that oil should go down Monday morning, and maybe interest rates come down, and that should support the broader markets going up to some level. Well, we'll see if that actually plays out. As we look at what happened in other markets, especially the semiconductors, we see that they broke down. They whipped up and down. We got a sell set up here, and we'll see if it violates Friday's low, sending it lower, or maybe if oil goes down and interest rates come down, it gaps up and we get some kind of upward movement. Still, it's in a downtrend. Memory ones, DRAM, similar, down. It's down a lot. Sell setup as well there. And you want to keep an eye on software this week to see if it breaks out of this range, because it's got room to go up. Well, we'll get to the now. Let's take a look at what they're doing, because they've been all over the place as well. Let's just type it in there. And as you can see, this has just been whipping up and down. There's been a lot of whipsaws in this market this year. Just been incredible. You know, the moves down and the moves up, and overall, this is just in a big sloppy trading range. But let's take a look at the individual stocks within it. That had a big up day on Friday, right? In part. Well, let's take a look at them individually. Amazon gapped up huge. And there's about a 15% up and move up into an area of resistance, and it's likely that's where it's going to stall. As we look to the left and see support and resistance, buyers at support, sellers at resistance. Pretty simple. Google broke down on earnings, and that came crawling back, and then that went up big time on Friday. I'm going to get to Meta. Microsoft earnings, huge gap up on Thursday, continued up on Friday. It's at the top of the trading range. Anticipate that there will be sellers up there. Sometimes support gets broken, and it was rattling around here. That E means it reported earnings, and that's why it gapped up that day. All right, semiconductors, NVIDIA, same story. Bottom of the trading range, top of the smaller trading range, top of the larger part of the trading range. Moved up off of the bottom here, inching up. We'll see if it can get up toward that high. And if it is moving up, odds are it will continue to move up. I think tomorrow, after the close is on semiconductor. That's one of the ones that's coming out. I think there's a couple of others, semiconductors, to keep an eye on. Yes, go back here. Tesla got killed. Here's the earnings, moved down, broke through support, and right at the bottom of that little support area there. So without any VWAPs, without any Fibonacci retracements, without any channels, trend lines, just simply look over to the left and see where buyers were before. It's that simple. Been saying it for years. Maybe just stop removing all of those squiggly lines off your chart and keep it simple. And on Friday, Apple gapped down, knocking off about $500 billion off its market cap of $5 trillion. Not a big deal, but that gapped down big on earnings. Now let's get to Meta, which gapped down 11%. Now, from the top of the trading range, it went down to the bottom of the trading range. This is when it was going to report earnings, and it was on a smaller area of support right there. Let's take a look at a few slides here that I prepared. See if I can bring this up here. All right. So this was part of the chart of the week that I did. You can go to the website and click on chart of the week and read all the details that I wrote about what different traders could have done in this situation and what they could have been looking for as coming into this situation. So what we had was a big wide range bar that occurred about a month, and that is created by institutions. Day traders don't create bars of this size. And then it continued. So they thought it could go higher, no doubt. And so when the buying stops, they back away and they look to buy again on pullbacks, add a little more, add a little more. And so when the earnings report was going to be released, there were these other levels of support down below. And so if it moved down, we would assume that they're going to keep buying on the way down, looking for it to recover, because this is what that signal was, what they thought would happen was a time to buy. Well, that didn't happen. It gapped down 11%. That's why it gapped down at the open, and it created this giant void. Now, as I showed you, it was gapping down. On the other chart, it was gapping down to support. So if you expand out to the higher time frame, weekly time frame, and look over to the left, I know there are going to be buyers down there. They've gone from 690 all the way down there. It was reasonable to think that buyers would show up in that area. Now, in hindsight, we can see that they actually did. But look, every trade starts with a bias. What is your bias based on? Is it a red light, green light system? Is it the Ichikumi cloud, MACD crossover signals? If you just simply do what I'm saying, is look over here to the left side and say, oh, there were buyers there before, there's likely to be buyers there again, and then wait to see if it actually begins to make a turn. You might sell a put spread. You might buy calls if you're really that bullish on the stock. You could sell a naked put, meaning if it kept going down, you're willing to accept the stock. You could do that. So the different ways of trading this with options, or you could just buy it as a day trade, which is what this next slide is about. So here's the daily chart. It's gapping down big time after, and it fell from this area, and now it's gapping down 11%. It was reasonable to think that that would be an exhaustion gap. From there, a day trader could say, well, I'm willing to day trade it as a buy. I think as a gap trade, it could work out. So we would let it trade 5 minutes. That's part of our methodology. Let it trade 5 minutes and see what it could do. It's possible it could go back down, and it gives us a line in the sand to share size for. And if it trades below that, we can just get out of the trade. You buy it over the first 5-minute bars high. Sometimes these just skyrocket up. This didn't. It just hung around and hung around and hung around, grinding there before it finally went up a little bit and came back down again. So it didn't take off like many times they do. It just hung around there, and then the next day it followed through higher. Takeaway here is that two things. The daily chart doesn't always communicate what it really looks like on an intraday chart and how it developed. Sometimes they just go straight up and it could look just like that. Sometimes they grind sideways as this did, and then it pushed higher and then it was grinding again. So just looking at these bars doesn't necessarily communicate that it was all that buy and ripping to the upside on that gap down. It didn't do that. Now it's got room to go higher on Monday. We'll see if it continues to follow through. For the day trader, it just starts with a whole new strategy again to see which way this goes or not. For option traders, I think, unless it pulls back, the put spread trader is out of the game, so to speak, because you're going to have to go too far away to get a reasonable, and there probably isn't going to be any premium there. So we'd have to see if it pulls back, and then we'll see if it just goes up. Other than that, I'm just looking at the broader markets. We'll be watching to see what software does. Of course, what the Qs do and the semiconductors, which way they go, whether this sell setup actually triggers. You might take a look at what happened in the transportation index. This is the ETF for transports. That broke down last week. So there was a lot of volatility. There were a lot of mixed messages. And going into this week, I suspect that's going to continue. And we'll see how it unfolds. There's the Dow, another choppy chart. Check out the chart of the week. Consider joining us in the green room, live trading throughout the trading day, and education. And other than that, if you have questions, email me, Greg at Master Trader.